I grew up believing every small town in the Philippines had secrets. Ours just happened to answer back. The town of San Isidro sat between rice fields and a restless river in northern Luzon. It wasn't famous. It wasn't cursed, at least not officially. We had one old church, a public market that smelled like dried fish and overripe bananas, and a plaza where teenagers whispered about crushes under broken streetlights. If you searched it on a map, you'd find nothing unusual. But every night at exactly 3:17 a.m., the church bells rang. The strange thing was, the bell tower had no bell. It had fallen decades ago during a typhoon and was never replaced. Still, the sound came. 3 long chimes, then silence. The elders said it was just the wind. But wind doesn't ring metal that isn't there. I moved back to San Isidro after living in Manila for 6 years. The city exhausted me. The traffic, the noise, the endless grind. It felt like something was chewing on my spirit. When my Lola passed away and left me her house near the plaza, I took it as a sign to return. The house was old but sturdy. Capichel windows, wooden floors that creaked like they were thinking before every step. From my bedroom, I could see the church tower framed against the night sky. The first night, I woke up at exactly 3:17 a.m. I didn't check the clock first. I heard the bells. 3 long, heavy chimes. They vibrated through the walls, through my ribs. I sat up in bed, heart racing. I thought maybe the parish priest had installed a new bell without anyone mentioning it. Then I remembered. There was no bell. I grabbed my phone. 3:17 a.m. The sound faded into silence so complete it felt unnatural, like the town was holding its breath. The next morning, I went to the market and asked around. "Ah, that," the fish vendor said, avoiding my eyes. "It's been like that for years." "Why 3:17? I asked. She shrugged. "Ask the church." So I did. The church of San Isidro Labrador stood older than memory. Its walls were stained by time, its paint peeling like sunburned skin. I found the parish caretaker, Mang Chelso, sweeping dried leaves near the entrance. "There's no bell in the tower, right?" I asked. He paused. "None." "Then what rings every night at 3:17? His jaw tightened. "You're your Lola's granddaughter," he said quietly. "You should know better than to ask." That wasn't an answer, but it was enough to make my stomach turn. That night, I decided to stay awake. At 3:16 a.m., the town felt wrong. No dogs barked, no tricycles rattled in the distance, even the crickets were silent. The air felt thick, like before a storm. Then, dong. The sound wasn't just outside. It was inside the house, inside my head. Dong. My bedroom door creaked open by itself. Dong. The final chime lingered, echoing in my chest. And then I heard footsteps. Slow, dragging, coming from the street. I forced myself to look through the window. At first, I thought it was fog. Then the shapes formed. People, dozens of them, walking down the road toward the church. They moved stiffly, heads slightly tilted, as if listening to something far away. They weren't neighbors I recognized. Their clothes looked old. Barong Tagalog yellowed with age, dresses from another decade. Some were barefoot, and none of them made a sound. My breath caught when one of them stopped directly in front of my house. A woman. Her face was pale, eyes sunken but open. She looked up at my window, at me. Her lips moved. I couldn't hear her through the glass, but I could read it. "Come." I didn't sleep after that. At sunrise, the street was empty. No footprints, no signs anyone had been there. I ran to the church. The doors were open. Inside, the air felt colder than outside. Mang Telso was nowhere to be seen. But there were footprints on the dusty floor. Wet footprints, leading from the entrance to the altar. I followed them. Behind the altar was a narrow staircase leading up to the bell tower. I climbed. Each step groaned beneath my weight. At the top, I found exactly what I expected. Nothing. No bell. just an empty wooden frame where one used to hang. But carved into the wood were names, dozens of them, each name etched deep, like someone had been desperate to make them permanent. I recognized one, Villanueva, Rosario, my Lola's name. My blood ran cold. Under it was a date, March 17th, 1983, 3:17. I confronted Manchelso that afternoon. He didn't deny it. Long ago, he began, voice trembling. There was a flood. Not from rain, from the river. It rose in the middle of the night. No warning. People drowned in their sleep. How many? 32. And the bells? The priest at that time rang them to warn everyone, but the rope snapped, the bell fell, crushed him. So why does it still ring? He looked at me with tired eyes. Because not everyone left. The flood had taken bodies, but not all were recovered. Some were buried in mud, some were never found. Every year, on March 17th, at 3:17 a.m., the town heard the bells. But in recent years, it wasn't just once a year. It was every night. They're trying to finish something, Manchelso whispered. Finish what? Counting. That night was March 16th. I didn't plan to stay in the house, but something told me I had to. At 3:17 a.m., the bells rang louder than ever before. The windows rattled. The footsteps returned, more of them this time. I stepped outside. I don't know why. The woman from before stood at the front of the crowd. Her face looked clearer now, less hollow. Come, she mouthed again. This time, I walked. The procession moved toward the church. The doors opened on their own. Inside, candles flickered to life one by one. 31 candles. But I knew what that meant. There were 32 victims. One candle remained unlit. The woman turned to me. Her eyes were no longer empty. They were pleading. I understood. My Lola had survived the flood, but she had pulled someone under with her in the chaos, trying to climb onto debris. The record said 32 died, but the carvings in the tower had 31 names. The missing name was the priest, crushed by the bell, uncounted, unfinished. The bells rang again. Once, twice, waiting for the third. I stepped toward the final candle. I remember you, I whispered, though I had never met him. I spoke the only prayer I knew. As I finished, I lit the last candle. The third chime never came. Instead, silence, warmth flooded the church. The figures around me softened, like mist in sunlight. One by one, they faded. The woman smiled before disappearing. When the last candle burned steady, the bell tower above us creaked. And for the first time in decades, a real bell rang. Just once. Clear. Bright. Final. It's been 3 months. The bells no longer ring at 3:17 a.m. The town feels lighter. Children play in the plaza at night again. Dogs bark, crickets sing. But sometimes, when I pass the church, I hear something faint. Not a bell. Not footsteps. Just the river, flowing calmly, as if nothing ever happened. Still, I keep one candle by my window, just in case the town ever forget how to count again. I didn't believe in cursed towns. I believed in bad luck, in weather, in poor planning, in the kind of isolation that makes people imagine things in the dark. Then I moved to Blackridge, Ontario. You won't find Blackridge on most maps. It sits about 40 minutes north of Thunder Bay, past a stretch of highway where cell service flickers out, and pine trees crowd the road like silent witnesses. It used to be a mining town in the 1950s, nickel mostly. When the mine dried up, so did the people. But some stayed, including my uncle. When he passed away, he left me his small house near Lake Laurentian, a wide, frozen expanse that locals simply called the White. I arrived in late January. Worst time of year. The kind of cold that slices through layers and makes your eyelashes freeze together. Snowbanks towered higher than my truck. The sky stayed a dull gray, like it had given up trying. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not peaceful silence, empty silence, like something was missing. Uncle Graham's house stood at the edge of town, facing the frozen lake. The place smelled faintly of cedar and old smoke. His boots still sat by the door. A mug with dried coffee rested on the kitchen counter. He had died in his sleep, they said. Heart failure. That's what the coroner from Thunder Bay ruled. But the neighbor, Mrs. Kessler, told me something different. He was found outside, she whispered on my second day there, near the lake. That's not what the report says. She leaned closer. Reports don't like complications. Complications? She hesitated. He wasn't alone. The lake stretched endlessly, flat and white, broken only by snowmobile tracks and fishing huts scattered like lonely dice. Ice fishing was big in Black Ridge. Every winter, people drilled holes and waited for lake trout beneath the frozen surface. On my third night, I heard it. A low, distant hum. At first, I thought it was wind cutting across the ice. But it wasn't moving. It was steady, vibrating. I stepped onto the porch. The air was so cold it burned, and the sound was coming from the lake. It wasn't loud, but it felt deep, like something massive shifting far below. The next morning, I asked around at the town's only diner. The white makes noises, one of the older men said. Ice shifts, expands. Does it hum? I asked. They exchanged glances. One woman quietly paid her bill and left. The old man stared into his coffee. It calls sometimes, he muttered. Best not to answer. That night I dreamed of water. Black water beneath thick ice. Something moving in it. Slow, circular, as if pacing. I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to the sound of cracking. Not wood, not pipes, ice. The lake groaned like it was alive. And then, a knock. 3 sharp taps. From the back door, my stomach twisted. No one would be out there in -30. I forced myself to look through the small window. Nothing but blowing snow. Then it came again. 3 taps. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't open the door. I stayed there until sunrise, gripping a fireplace poker like it would do anything against whatever waited in the dark. The next day, I walked out onto the lake. I told myself it was curiosity. Closure. Maybe I wanted to see where Uncle Graham had been found. Snow crunched under my boots. The air was painfully still. About 50 meters from shore, I noticed something strange. A perfect circle in the snow, roughly 6 feet across, as if the wind had avoided that spot entirely. At its center was an old fishing hole, but it wasn't frozen over. Everything else on the lake was solid ice. This hole remained dark and liquid, and I could hear it. That hum. Stronger now. I knelt beside it. The water wasn't still. It was rotating, slowly, like a whirlpool turning beneath the ice. I leaned closer, and I swear, something moved below. Not a fish. Too large. Too deliberate. I staggered back. That's when I saw the footprints, leading from the shore to the hole, and back. Bare footprints. I ran back to town and confronted Mrs. Kessler. She didn't pretend not to understand. It started in 1962, she said. A winter colder than this one. A group of miners decided to fish on the lake after too many drinks. One of them fell through. An accident, I said. They said that, yes, but when they pulled him out, he wasn't frozen. What do you mean? He was warm, like he'd been in bath water. I stared at her, and he kept saying something had brushed against him, down there, something big. The next week, 2 more men vanished while fishing, then a teenager. Each time their bodies were found near the same area, unfrozen, skin pale but not frostbitten, eyes open, as if they'd seen something impossible. They closed the mine that year, she continued. Said it wasn't profitable anymore. But it wasn't about the mine. No, it was about the lake. She nodded slowly. They drilled too deep. I couldn't sleep that night. The hum grew louder. It seeped into the walls, into my bones. At 3:12 a.m., the knocking returned. But this time, it wasn't at the door. It was beneath the floor. 3 knocks, from under the house. Then the hum rose in pitch. I grabbed a flashlight and went outside. The lake glowed faintly, not bright, just a dull blue shimmer beneath the ice, and figures stood on it, dozens, motionless, facing the hole. I recognized one, Uncle Graham. He stood barefoot on the ice, head tilted slightly. His skin wasn't blue. It was pale, almost translucent. He raised his hand slowly, not waving, pointing at me. The ice cracked, long fractures splitting outward from the hole. The hum became a roar, and the circle began to widen. Water surged upward, but it didn't spill over. It held its shape, like a column rising. Within it, something massive shifted, a shadow bigger than any creature that could live in a lake. My uncle's mouth opened, and though he stood too far away to hear, I knew what he said. Join. The other figures stepped backward, into the widening crack. One by one, they sank beneath the ice without breaking it, like being absorbed. Uncle Graham was last. He never broke eye contact. Then he was gone. The ice sealed. The glow faded. Silence returned. The next morning, the lake looked untouched. No cracks, no hole, no footprints. But the snow near my porch had melted in a perfect circle. I packed that day. As I drove south toward Thunder Bay, my phone regained signal. Messages flooded in. Missed calls. News alerts. A fisherman had gone missing that morning in Black Ridge. Last seen near the center of the lake. Authorities said it was likely thin ice. I kept driving. I didn't look back. It's been 2 years. Black Ridge officially has a population of 38 now, down from 52. Each winter, that number drops by 1 or 2. Accidents. Exposure. Thin ice. They always find the bodies. Unfrozen. Eyes open. And sometimes, late at night in my apartment far away from any lake, I wake up at exactly 3:12 a.m. to 3 soft knocks. From beneath my bed, the hum is faint, but it's there, waiting. And every winter, when the temperature drops low enough, I feel it stronger, like something deep under the earth turning slowly. Pacing, beneath the ice, still calling.